has asked me to talk about teapots, and these are teapots. You can look upon teapots as basically something which is a Russian T-72 coming into battle, or teapots could be more like a herd of elephants all munching away on grass. Essentially, I like teapots, I like tanks, and I like elephants. Okay, so how do we make a teapot? Well, you know, basically the teapot shape is sort of this shape here, the lid, and it pours. And okay, so various elements of the teapot: spout, lid, the body, the handle. What we've got to do is make sure we have a handle which we can grip, which is going to support the weight of the teapot. The spout which pours, and the lid. Very important thing is, it has to be fairly secure, so that as I tip it up, it doesn't fall out. And it's got to have a little hole in the top to let the steam out. Otherwise, if you fill it up to the top, put the lid down, and it doesn't have a hole in it, the pressure will force the hot tea out the end. Slightly different ways of doing a spout. It's the bird's mouth spout. It's a bird's mouth because it's supposed to make things pour more elegantly, but I just like it because I like the shape. The downside, of course, is that they're more fragile. So this is a bird's mouth which had a horrible accident and it's lost its bottom bill. Okay, so it's made on a wheel. The wheel spins round and round and round. So it would go round and round and round. That makes the body of the pot here. So what I'm doing is essentially I'm just making a bowl, a jar. I lift it up, it comes up straight, I tip over the top bit here, and then I make the indentation, usually with my finger, something like that. The clay sometimes gets a bit soggy, so I have to make sure that I keep it surface dry all the time. Usually I use I can use my thumbnail, or sometimes just the side of my finger, sometimes a stick. This bit at the top here is called the seat, and the seat fits the lid, nice and snugly. Okay, so the lid, we make it upside down, form this bit here, the shelf, and this skirt here. I cut it off at the top with, usually I just pull out a hair from my head and use it as a cheese wire to cut the top off. It's normally on a sort of stem like this. When it's dry, I flip it over and I use a turning tool to cut this bit here. If there's not enough clay on it, I'll just make a ball of clay, stick it on top. And with 2 fingers, I turn the shape of this. Okay, the handles. 2 ways of doing a handle. This one here was done by pulling a stump of clay out, which is sticking it on there, and it would stick out straight like that. When it's a little bit drier, I pull it into shape. I would pull it down like that, tilt the top here, stick it on there. And then normally you'd have to rest it upside down like that on the edge of a table so that the handle is stuck on. Let it dry. Sometimes it goes out of shape a little bit, but you just have to push it back on. The spout is made like a cone. Can you see the spout is shaped like a cone? It's conical in shape. So imagine this is a cone. I've made this on the wheel upside, this way up. Narrow the neck. The neck is actually, I use my finger at the top here. I turn it up, use my finger at the top here to make the long neck. I usually make the neck about that high, that slim, and the base will be about this wide, like that. I then cut the cone at this angle like this, fit it over the pot, and then put on some slip and then work my way around my fingers to smooth it into the body of the clay. Before I've done that, let's find this one here. Can you see inside there? Those little holes there, those are the tea leaf catchers. Not everyone does it. I do it because I just like making those little holes. So I make them, before I put the spout on, the spout goes there, I would gently put the spout on, find out where it's going to be, draw a line around here, identify where the holes are, and then drill the holes with a little copper tube before I fix the spout. So you've got the handle, spout, and the seat for the lid, and then the lid itself. Okay, let's take a look at glazes. You don't have to glaze the inside of a teapot, but I do, because it's just more difficult not to glaze it than it is to glaze it. Traditionally, if you make a teapot, which this is porcelain, this is stoneware. With this, you don't need to glaze it at all. But if you don't glaze the outside, the stains from the tea can penetrate the body of the material, and it can end up by looking a bit grungy. So I do glaze them. This is actually an example of an over-fired glaze. It got too hot because that part of the kiln got too hot, and as a result the glaze is very shiny. It wasn't supposed to be like this. And strange enough, these are actually the same glaze. It's just sometimes when you don't pay attention in the firing, things go different, and two different glazes come out very, very different. This glaze here is an experiment with a crystalline glaze. Oh, incidentally, I can see that. It's a copper crystalline glaze, and it's, if you see on the edge there, those little copper crystals which formed on it. It's a nuisance to do because it takes about an extra 4 hours of firing to do it, which means, usually this means that I'll be up at something like 2 o'clock in the morning, adjusting the kiln temperature, bringing it down in incremental steps to cool down. It's a matte crystalline glaze, and when they work very nicely, but when they don't work, they make a horrible mess. So you can see it sort of worked. It's supposed to be matte like this, but where it didn't work, it was like that. You can see these teapots they get put to good use, and they end up being chipped and broken. This particular one doesn't have a European type handle. It has a side handle, which is more common here in East Asia. And it's really because this is a very comfortable movement for some people, to pour like this. Whereas this one here, there's too much weight, cantilevered off your hand, and you put a lot of tension in your forearm. This one here, you've got apparently less, it's easier twisting movement. What else is said about teapots? They take a lot of time. So essentially I've had to make, for this particular one here, I've had to make 1, 2, 3, 4 different pieces and assemble them together. So this has been thrown, cut, trimmed times 4, so that's 12 operations, and as a result, if you make something simple like a mug, it's just 1, 2 operations here. It's normally twice as much work in a teapot, but the other thing is teapots have a volume, so they take up a lot of space in the kiln. So 1 teapot takes up the space of let's say 4 mugs, 1, 2, 3, 4, plus 1.5 times the kiln height. So by volume of kiln, they take up 6 times as much space as a mug. So they should actually be 6 times more expensive to produce and sell for 6 times more money. But you try explaining that to a customer, they always want more for less. I always feel that the best thing for a teapot is to actually make something which is a small teacup size. And the reason is that let the tea stay in the pot where it's at the right temperature, pour it into a small cup, just as much as you want to drink at one time. If you keep it inside that cup any longer, it'll go cold. So drink what you can when you want to do it, and then refill it from the pot. Most people have been brought up with the idea of a mug where they put in a tea bag, and it's too hot when you begin with. It's too weak and hot, and as it cools down, it becomes too strong and cold. Mugs are nice. I like mugs, but I feel that really you're not going to, unless you're used to swilling a lot of tea at the right time. A mug is really too big, I find. I prefer to have something like a cup and refill it from a teapot, and it's always tea at the condition which suits me best. Some people like it stronger, weaker, hotter, cooler. It's up to you, but when you find that your perfect tea, then a teapot can help you achieve consistency over the period of time you're drinking your tea. What else can we say about teapots? Oh yeah, they seem to be disappearing from the stores, which is a pity. So I would suggest you go out and buy a teapot. Absolutely not like that. There it is.
There's a big hole and a small hole.
Sorry, a bit slow this. There we go. There is a teapot with a tea cozy. A teapot with chips in it, which is why this is relegated to basically secondary functions. I always recommend you get a tea cozy on a teapot because it will keep your tea in a much better condition. Next question, where do you get a tea cozy from? Make it. Get some scraps, get a sewing machine, put it together. If you don't have a sewing machine, get a needle and thread. If that's beyond you, find someone who can help you out.
Or you can knit. If you can knit a bobble hat, you can knit with 2 holes in it.
Yeah, go to the sports store, buy a ski hat, and snip a hole for the spout. A jumble sale, somewhere where second-hand clothing is sold. Find a rasta who wants a new hairdo.